Okay, Catalin Preda, how you doing, man?
Good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
Things actually moved pretty quickly. I just caught up with Adrian, just outside of the aquatic complex gates, and he was like, "Hey, we talked a bit about the podcast as he was a guest on your podcast a little bit ago, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll reach out." And not even an hour later, you just shot me a message asking if I want to be your first ever high diving guest on the podcast. And
Well,
yeah,
that's
it's a really cool format that you put together, and I really like it. I've been following it for a little bit, and yeah, I find super interesting content and insight, and I think it's a privilege to be on it, and I thank you for that.
well. Listen, you are our first official high diver or cliff diver, as they would say, and I was introduced by Adrian Radulescu, who is a great participant in this show. Obviously, the coach of David Popovich, and I had a good history with both those men, and I'm a huge fan of them. And anytime Adrian reaches out to me and says you need this person on your show, immediately I'm going to respond, right? So it's like um,
I'm
your
glad you did
English
so.
your English is better than theirs, actually. I think. How come your English is so good?
Um, I've been around the globe for quite a while now. I left uh, I left Romania following further academic studies. I went to the UK, and I
Mm,
graduated at a university in the UK. That plus contracts around the world. Um, had my detour through the entertainment industry for a while. I spent about 4 years in Macau working in a really big show with Franco Dragone,
wow.
um, and yeah, just traveled quite a bit and worked in multicultural and international environments and teams. So the exchange, the communication being super important as I see it in absolutely every endeavor. I just focused on that as well and on developing communication skills. And yeah, thanks. I take it as a compliment.
Well, listen, it's swimming related. It's not You're not moving your arms and legs like we do in the pool, but you're definitely
Right.
in the water and doing what you're doing. And there's so much dedication, there's so much precision, there's so much training, there's so much mental strategy that goes into, and
Hmm.
very similar in terms of preparing for a big major swim meet. But in terms of the diving aspect, there's no way that you started as a cliff diver, right? Like your parents went, hey, let's take you to a cliff and start jumping off the cliff. But so where did it begin for you?
I think it's quite the typical background, of people sort of drifting into cliff diving and high diving. Um, it starts off with swimming lessons and then tumbles into diving lessons. So that
Mm,
was my starting point. I started with swimming lessons previous to um, starting school. Basically, I was about 7, and that summer my parents turned me into swimming lessons. um, I wasn't really the most excited when it came to water. I
mhm.
wouldn't have really anticipated, the evolution of my career around this element, and getting to high performance level and doing it professionally and full
Yeah.
time about 24 years later. But yeah, I had quite a modest start. I wasn't really fit um, for the spots reserved for swimmers in that classroom, and the swimming instructor really recommended my parents to turn me into diving. I was also shorter, not quite, I didn't have like broad shoulders nor long limbs, so I was one of the last ones in the play races back that summer, I remember. And then yeah, it just picked up from there. I did about a year of intro in diving, and then a coach who I really launched into high performance diving, um, took us in our team, in his team, basically under his wing, and with his guidance I basically got through junior level. Then I switched clubs as well, and I continued until senior level. I did about a year of senior level, And after that, it was basically the team that was trying to be put together in perspective of the London Olympics. And I haven't managed to qualify before that, even though I was part of the national team all the way through my junior years. I didn't manage to qualify for the Olympics, and I still would have had some chances. However, I think at that point, my motivation, my mindset wasn't quite in the right place, and so I decided to follow through with the academic path, and I decided to go and study journalism and media, so communication skills basically. And I shot off to the UK, and there after my second year, I revisited an offer that I had to go and work on cruise ships, and it seemed like a good idea just to put aside some time for the final projects during the final year, not needing to play here and there with part-time jobs and stuff. I was doing part-time diving lessons at the pool. I was doing some lifeguarding lessons here and there as well. But then I was like, look, I want to focus on my final year as well, and I don't want to take away time from studies to keep working like that. And so I went to do my first contract on the cruise ship, and that was just the eye opener. Like, that was a shifting point in my career for sure. I got to meet cliff divers that were already on the tour. This was happening in 2012, and that's what I found out, that there are higher heights. The cruise ship itself had 2 perches at 17 meters, so it was like 2 springboard. It was like a kidney-shaped pool with 2 springboards at about 3 meters, 2 10-meter platforms, and 2 17-meter platforms. And 17 meters was like out of this world in my understanding. Yeah, didn't even know it existed. And so I started looking into that. I did a bit of research with some guidance from the guys, and so I started basically creating a plan of making it higher, taking it step by step. And fast forward to 2023, I'm a branded athlete on the World Series Tour, and got some performances in my pocket in a sport that basically I found it to be an opportunity to reinvent myself. So it was through this artistic industry, show-based environment that I learned to put the skills that I acquired through diving in an artistic setting on stage, coordinating with different artists, different divers, different acrobats, to deliver basically something that's been envisioned as a collaborative project. And that for me was a very thrilling and stimulating prospect in itself. So the way I was looking at the composition of a show, where you really had to be there, like you couldn't afford having your mind wander. There was a scuba safety team involved. There were cues, there were hydraulic lifts moving up and down, and you really needed to be present and focused. All of this whilst doing, and executing your dives as well as possible and as beautifully as possible. So
yeah, I didn't really understand this world until when I was at Auburn University. We had guys who were on that national level who were some of the best divers in the country, in America. And when their careers were over, it was like, oh, I'm going to go and spend 6 months on a cruise ship. And I was like, really? Like, you can do that? They're like, yeah, cruise ships all around the world. They have these diving teams, and we go and perform. I was like, wow. So in terms of that part of the diving world, the cruise ship world, tell us about that. Why do they have divers come and perform on cruise ships?
They have different casts. So there's an ice skating cast, there's a production cast with dancers and singers and acrobats, and there's also the aqua cast. So there's a specific show a specific production tailored around water as an element and water skills.
How many times a day would you have to perform?
Back on the cruise, it was, I think, out of 7 days of cruise, we were doing about 10 shows, I think.
Okay. And so then what's the appeal of that other than kind of
8 shows, yeah.
So instead of just like seeing different countries and like, what's the financial benefit? Like, what do they offer you to come and do something like that?
There is remuneration. I mean, there is a monthly salary that you get, and it's the experience in itself. You know, it's the exposure to living, leaving your comfortable area, going somewhere else, and really learning how to integrate and adapt. And like, from my own point of view, my perspective on it was to really work on my versatility and adaptability, and that's what I took for a challenge. But that was, like I said, that was only a starting point. Also, besides cruise ships, there are also theme parks that sometimes, you know, they build this high perch that goes up to say 80-90 feet, and it just has this tiny little platform that only your feet can actually fit on it. Right. And then there's a tank, you know, on the bottom, like a round tank. So that format that's been around, it was very popular back in the 70s and 80s. If you remember, like the guys were just going higher and higher, Dana Kunze and Olivier, and the old school guys. So back then the trend was to go higher, and nowadays the trend really shifted into bring in high performance diving skills into a more formal and more recently standardized to a high level setting. So,
and how did this all come about in terms of the professional setting and the circuit, the international stage, that sort of thing? How did this come about originally?
In what way you mean?
So, like, I guess Red Bull got involved. Is it Red Bull funded in terms of the circuit that you're part of now, the professional circuit, the league, or is there kind of a governing body? Like, how is it organized, structured?
So, as far as the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series is concerned, this is a format that's been around since 2009, if I'm not mistaken. And ever since, it evolved. 2009, I think, marked a point, you know, in the timeline where things started becoming more and more professional, in the sense that the level was evolving. The difficulty of the dives was growing exponentially. Right. And then 2013 was the year where FINA hosted the first ever edition of World Championships, where high diving was a discipline, part of the program. And since then, every 2 years, high diving was part of the FINA program in Kazan, in Budapest in 2017, and after that, with the pandemic, it sort of took a bit of a dip, and we're scheduled to resume this year in Fukuoka. So World Cup under FINA became also a qualification criteria as well as a competition apart from the Red Bull organized contests. And there are other organizing bodies who are doing events around high diving as well, but these are the two main ones.
Now, are there guys who just say, you know what, I'm just going to stick to the Red Bull circuit and not care about the International World Championship circuit, or are they intertwined? Do you do both?
It is actually very well connected in terms of helping the sport grow, of raising the bar higher and higher, and really coming to a point where it just ticks all the boxes en route to becoming an Olympic discipline. I mean, this is what we all want to get to.
Are we close to that?
I believe so. I don't think. I mean, it's quite late to be introduced, you know, as a new discipline for 2024. but the perspective is very promising as far as the LA games are concerned.
Good.
So
Now, how do you get
we're hoping for
invited
that.
onto the Red Bull circuit? How did someone like you first get approached by Red Bull?
So my personal experience really started, like I said, on the cruise ship. I started with the plan. Then I went and ticked off the intermediate points that I considered to be essential. And between 15 and 19, I spent about 4 years in a big production in Macau, and that was a big show where I saw it to be the best training ground for me. I
Is
didn't
it like
anticipate spending there
like
for,
a Cirque du
yeah,
Soleil or something?
Cirque du Soleil, exactly. So essentially, I ran away with the circus, as cliche as that might sound. But I ended up spending 4 years in China, and it was the best foundation that I could have possibly lay down. And once I got to a point where I was happy with the technical program that I put together, over there we had a 17-meter high dive and a 24-meter high dive, and it was an indoor show. It was a purpose-built theater. We were about 96 performers at full capacity. Overall, about 300 something people crew.
You
All
have a
sorts of
coach?
apparatuses, and right now
No, like during those performances, was there a coach there specifically
there
for the
was
divers?
there was a diving coach that was also training high diving and Russian swing. You probably
Right,
saw this apparatus. It's just
right.
big swing with 3-4 people at a time on it, and then you
Mm,
have the flyer, the back pushers, and yeah, there's a lot of power, and
mm.
that was one of the apparatuses that basically allowed me to have so much airtime and a different perspective, as well as focus training, because you can't really allow yourself to slip out of that zone where you just feel the swing
Oh yeah,
underneath. So
yeah.
as soon as I really put together the technical program, it was 24 meters, it was not 27. I haven't had a 27-meter experience prior to getting the first invitation in 2018, and at that point, basically, I submitted a video demo tape
Right.
application sort of thing, and it was beginning of 2018. Um, I was on a big trek in Nepal in the Himalayas, and I logged onto the Nepalese satellite just to sort of give word to my parents that everything's fine, I'm okay. And I received the email that I got a
Ah,
wildcard invitation from Red Bull later on in the season. It was scheduled to be in September. So
wow.
that was the point where I was like, okay, like I had some ideas about coming up with a new dive that no one really approached until then. And I was like, okay, I just need 27 meters for that. I did everything that I possibly could from 9 meters and 17. And I was like, with 10 extra meters, it would fit. It has to fit, like.
Right.
So Macau was also the place where I basically discovered the wonders and solidified, the practice of visualization, mindfulness, really
Mm.
escaping that negative bias, that we're all very prone to. So it was just a mindset uh, recreation altogether. And
So is
I
that
showed
really
up
important, I
in,
guess, is like in terms of like going up and doing and performing, the idea is to clear your mind. Is that the best performance?
I think we all work differently, obviously, same as we interpret success or high performance or whatever it is differently. But when it comes to finding a routine that's most efficient for you, um, we do have different. I I don't want to say crutches, but it's kind of like a crutch. Some people juggle, some people just dance, others sing out loud, others do meditate. Visualization is a big part of the process as well. So I think it's a combination of all these things, and really getting to a point where you just learn to listen to what your body needs, and
Yeah.
how to put yourself in the position that would would just tune you into that frequency and get you ready for the dive. 27 meters when you go up is about like 8 stories high, right? 8-9 stories high, and about 90 feet. You hit the water at 85 kilometers an hour, and you go from, you know, a cheering crowd that can just whistle or make a noise at any time. So learning how to block that and detach, and I know the concept of compartmentalization is something that you really appreciate as well. So it's extremely important to learn how to separate, you know, and really draw the line between any factors that could distract you while during a dive, and just like stay there. So blocking any external noise and any external distraction, really giving the command and having the trust that, you know, the body would do what it's been trained to do.
Have you got to a point where you've walked out onto a ledge and had a moment where you've had to step back and just say, I'm not mentally ready for this right now?
While I was learning and increasing the height, I recall needing to take a bit of extra time here and there. It hasn't happened often, but once I put my arms up and I get on the edge, I don't step back. I avoid stepping back. So it's been like, you know, the decisiveness of executing a dive, of performing it, has been something that I've been working on from the start, and really, but it happens often, you know, that people need to take a moment, or you have situations where the weather elements, you know, might just really interfere with your balance, with your focus, with your, really, like a gust can throw you off balance, and you can't really afford taking off into a difficult dive from 27 meters whilst you're off balance. So
now, Kat, what's the appropriate way to land a dive like that at 27 meters? What are you aiming to do? You know, obviously you don't want extremities out, I would imagine. How are you positioning your body to land perfectly? And I guess, I imagine it's feet first. Obviously you can't land on your head. So what are you doing with your feet in order to get that perfect entry?
Yeah, no head first, no hands first, diving from that height. I think it's been done in a couple exceptions, but it's not something sustainable. And at this level, it's not something that's really being cultivated or pursued.
Because when I jump off the 10 meter, I grab my crutch. You know, I'm holding on tight. You know?
Right. And that's actually like one way that people sort of clasp their hands in front of their hip waist sensitive area. Others just like go, you know, fist close together and sort of punching the water. But ideally, you want you know, as straight as possible line. You want to be as vertical as possible when you're hitting the water.
Down or feet flat?
Toes in like a semi-point. So you don't want them.
Oh, really?
I mean, flat's okay. Pointed is not okay. Pointed can just really slice the water. You could slice the water and like have the legs split and legs go in different directions, and hence, you know, the
flat's okay. Like you don't slice your skin open here.
No, you don't really. No. So the skin doesn't break, but it's funny that you mentioned this, because every beginning of the season, you know, there's a break-in period. So same as when you buy new hiking boots, right? You have to break them in.
Right.
So it's the same. You end up getting bruised soles, and it just takes a bit of time until, you know, the skin and the muscles in your feet get used to that impact. Yeah. But
so I watch a lot of MMA. Like those MMA, you know, they kick, and so like they're kicking trees and things like that to kind of toughen their shins up. So what you're saying is, like, for a high diver, you're hitting the surface of the water over and over again to toughen the soles of the feet. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So basically,
you ever take a baseball bat and like smack it?
Not necessarily, no. But like I have all sorts of massage aids, like a lacrosse ball, golf balls, all sorts of round sticks, just to massage the feet and all the nerve endings in the sole of the foot, which are basically connected to a lot of other areas in the body. But yeah, that comes with, you know, a maturity and a self-awareness, doing what you need to do and listening to, you know, what the body needs and when it needs it.
Well, you're talking about preparation. What is the preparation? How do you train for this? Where do you train? You just find a cliff somewhere and start jumping off it, or and go back there every day? Like, what's the weekly schedule for a trainer like you?
So when you get to do it professionally, and have, you know, an objective in really keeping the level up and really helping and contributing to raising the sport, you need to bring your everything to it. At the moment, I'm essentially training full time. Like, this is my approach and attitude. Got double sessions at the moment in the off season. Really focus on strength and conditioning, whilst really doing a lot of diving gym as well, dryland skills. So drilling that foundation in, takeoffs in all positions, handstand holds, overall body strength, and then weights 3 to 4 times a week, plus the yoga training, the stretching, the mobility training, physiotherapy, and all of that. But even in the off season, don't necessarily shoot off cliff scouting in a warm country when, you know, there's snow outside in your home homeland.
Yeah.
So 10-meter diving pools are essential here, because
you have some in Romania.
We do. We have a newly opened aquatics complex just outside of Bucharest, capital city, and it's up to modern international standard, and it really is a breath of fresh air. We had a long period when we only had one diving pool in the entire country, about 4-hour drive from here. So it's been quite difficult in terms of sustaining a competition ready, water focused level for diving, and you can't really dive without the water, can you? But somehow, like, made it happen, and throughout the years, even though we had, you know, limited training opportunities, the diving school's been going. Hasn't been big. It's still quite a small scale niche sport, I would say. But in light of the recent years and better results internationally, it's caught up a bit of profile, and media is turning attention towards it. And now with more facilities being, you know, projected to be refurbished, renovated, and reopened, we hope that the program's gonna grow and get to a point where we could potentially implement a high diving program as well, same as other countries have already, you know, turned focus towards this.
Awesome. Listen, Kat, I'm loving this conversation. I wish we had put more time away. We should have. I had so many more questions, but I've got to run. I got work, unfortunately, but I'm loving this.
Yeah.
Listen, congrats on a career that you're making out of this. It's incredible.
Thank you. Appreciating it.
I really hope that we can see it in the LA Olympics, and maybe you'll be there as well. So, but good luck with your career.
You as well.
All right. Cheers, man. Bye.